Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about the Cobra Effect and gaming. The examples are all going to be Call of Duty based, but you could apply them to almost any game at this point. You're probably wondering what the Cobra Effect is, but don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you. It is a sort of logical, economical, and psychological principle that applies to gaming, real life, and a dozen other things. The gameplay that you're seeing right now is me playing League Play. I went in solo, just kind of in the solo queue in League Play, got a random lobby. These guys played okay, their gun skill was on point, but they didn't really know what a rotation was or how to anchor or anything, so you're going to get to see me have really good gameplay and then run off and try and anchor and rotate or something like that and end up dying. But let's cut back to the Cobra Effect. The best way to define the Cobra Effect is when an attempted solution to a problem actually makes the problem worse. Like, the more you try to help, the worse it gets. This is an actual thing, and it's called the Cobra Effect because back in the 1800s, during British rule of India, there was a problem with too many cobras in the capital of Delhi. The British government just thought that there were too many venomous cobras around. It was a public nuisance. It was scary to them, something they didn't like. So they had this idea to put out a bounty on dead cobras. You know, we're going to pay you so much pence or pounds or whatever per each dead cobra. They might have even been using the local currency at the time, though I doubt it. And initially it worked. The cobras were killed. The population went down. However, some very enterprising Indians kind of got the idea that maybe we should breed cobras because the price that they were paying per cobra was more than it cost to actually breed and raise a cobra. So they just started breeding tons and tons of cobras and keeping on bringing in bodies. And the British were getting confused because they're like, you know, we've killed so many, we've paid out so many bounties, they keep bringing in dead ones. I don't see any cobras. Where are they coming from? And eventually they realized the locals were breeding the cobras, so they canceled the bounty. And when the bounty was canceled, these same enterprising individuals had absolutely no incentive to keep and raise a whole bunch of cobras, so they just set them free, and then the cobra population exploded. Hence, the attempted solution to the problem to set a bounty on it completely backfired, and we got way more cobras. A similar thing happened in Hanoi and Vietnam during the French rule. There was a rat problem. Rats are pests, they carry diseases, so the French decided to put a bounty on rats. They didn't want whole rats because they stink. Just show us the rat tail and we'll count that as a dead rat. Well, the locals pretty quickly realized that rats breed fast, and if you kill the rat, then there's not going to make any more, but if you just lop the tail off, he'll still breed, make more little rat babies with rat tails. And all of a sudden the French started noticing a whole lot of rats with no tails around because the locals were just chopping them off, turning in the tail, getting the bounty, and it really didn't do anything. If anything, it encouraged a rat problem just kind of before because they encouraged breeding. And that is the two best historical examples of the Cobra Effect. But before we move into the gaming part of the Cobra Effect, I've got a surprise for you. I have a Scuf One Drifter Edition giveaway. For those of you that don't know, I have my very own Scuf controller. I'm giving one away. It'll be a custom build from Scuf. All you have to do is click the link down there in the description, follow me on Twitter, follow Scuf on Twitter, tweet the tweet, and you will be entered to win. I will pick one person at random, and this is an international giveaway. It ships anywhere in the world, so wherever you live, don't even worry about it. You're totally good to go. And I'm kind of putting this later in the video instead of earlier because I wanted to reward the most loyal fans. If I titled the video something giveaway, well then everybody would flood in. Some people just search giveaway in internet. I didn't really want that. This is for you guys. This is for the fans, the guys that stick with me. So for those of you that do like my video, I'm impressed by that RCXD kill right there. That reaction time was impressive. For those of you that watch this far in, you definitely do deserve it. Back to the gaming, and we're taking the Cobra Effect into gaming too. Has there ever been anything in Call of Duty that was supposed to do one thing but did the exact opposite? Psh, I've never heard of that. Call of Duty is a perfect game. No, not really. One of my pet peeves, and one of the things where I think this shows up best, is on the subject of tactical insertions. Not included in Call of Duty Ghosts, but included in many other Call of Duties, including Black Ops 2 here. You don't see it in League Play, but you see it in public matches a lot. The idea behind the tactical insertion, which I think first showed up in MW2, was to give players a kind of additional stealth option to come in at odd angles and to also help them break bad spawns, because even in that game we were learning how to spawn trap, how to manipulate it. It could really suck when you get trapped in your spawn and you're really far away from the objectives and you get killed over and over again. But if you get out, you can drop your tac insert somewhere, so when they kill you, you can pop back on your tac insert in a better position to kill people, move around, anchor a spawn for your team, something like that. That was kind of the idea. However, what it ended up doing is making the spawns more complicated because it counted as another piece of equipment, another sentient thing, and it threw the algorithms for a loop, and it also caused the players to very quickly learn how to abuse this to spawn in really crazy locations. And to a point, that's kind of what's supposed to happen, but they learned to put them really close to objectives, so you'll kill like 3 guys off a B flag in Domination, which is I play a lot, and then all of a sudden the same 3 guys will pop right back up in your face and hose you and drop tac inserts again. And up until Black Ops 2, it was very difficult to deal with that. Thankfully, we had EMP grenades that were very approachable in this game, so you could knock them out. But even still, it can be very frustrating. And it's also generally abused by quickscopers to kind of get them back into the action faster, to get that kind of crazy QS going on, which is debatably broken, overpowered, but definitely annoying. It's really frustrating when you're on the receiving end of a quickscope. That just kind of happens sometimes. But again, that's the Cobra Effect. The idea was to help improve the spawning and give players an option to spawn out of trouble. What they decided to do is just kind of spawn back into the action as fast as possible and get kind of chaotic. You can see the same kind of thing going on in Call of Duty Ghosts with all of these submachine gun buffs and nerfs. Basically, when that game came out, the only good submachine gun was the MTAR-X for competitive play. Of course, public matches a little bit different, but all the pros used the MTAR-X and pretty much nothing else. It was like Call of MTAR going on. So they decided to buff some of the other SMGs. They got a little bit too strong, so then we nerfed them, and then the headshots were too strong, so we scaled those back, and we did a lot of SMG rebalancing. And the idea was to make other SMGs more viable and not just the MTAR, because it was kind of boring to watch. It was kind of a crutch weapon. It's something that everybody did, and the tournaments weren't super fun when everybody was running the MTAR. Well, what ended up happening is some very enterprising pros — enterprising's the wrong word, I just like that word, I'm kind of attracted to that word for some reason, but not attracted like that — they discovered that the Vector actually has a better 3-shot kill range than the MTAR, and it's actually pretty stable, easy to handle, good penetration, all these other sort of good attributes, and a gun that previously wasn't receiving a whole lot of love, definitely did get a little bit but not a ton, now started getting a lot of attention, and eventually people dropped all the MTARs and the Bisons and stuff. They moved over to Vector, and then they figured that the Vector actually has a better 3-shot kill range than quite a number of the assault rifles in the game, so a few AR players dropped it and moved to Vector. So now Call of Duty Ghosts is like Call of Vector submachine gun battles in the pro scene, and actually made all these submachine gun nerfs and patches and balances actually made the problem worse. So now all everybody does is run the Vector. Call of Duty in general, I can do the Cobra Effect again. We'll do DLC this time. There are, if you go into a solo playlist by yourself or with friends, if you all have DLC, if you've all got the season pass or the same packages or whatever, it puts you into a kind of invisible playlist only with people that have your same DLC package. And especially if you kind of skip one, this can get really weird. But what that does is it segments you from the regular player pool. You're not playing with them, you're playing with the DLC only guys, which is not necessarily the same as the regular player pool, not only because the DLC only crowd is going to be smaller, but they're also going to be a different type of people. Just the people that buy DLC are inherently to have a few attributes a little bit different from average. And the idea behind this is if you buy, and this is the Cobra Effect, the good part of this, what they said is, you know, our customers are buying DLC. They want to play their downloadable content in regular matchmaking. They don't want to have to go to the special playlist. They don't want to never see it, because if they go in regular matchmaking and one person joins the lobby that doesn't have DLC, well, nobody can play it, or they can't join mid-match, and it makes everything very difficult. And the idea is, okay, well, now you're in your kind of invisible DLC playlist, and you can use your DLC in regular rotation, and you can enjoy it, and a lot of people do, but unfortunately, it kind of fragments the player base and makes it smaller than it appears to be, so it's more difficult to get good matches either based on skill or based on connection. Or if you're playing on PC or Wii or something with a small player base or at the wrong time of night, it can actually make it near impossible to get matches. Well, that's why a lot of PC players don't pick up the DLC, because it fragments the player base so small that you can't get a good match. So again, the idea was that we want our players to be able to enjoy the DLC, but the effect was, well, now they can't get good matches or any matches at all. And this plays over and over again in real life too. So I'll give you a couple of good real life examples here near the end. There are call centers in the United States and worldwide that are judged based on resolution time. The metric by which the parent company judges how effective the call center isn't customer satisfaction. It isn't in any other metric other than how fast we get them off the line, how fast our resolution time is. And all this really does is it pushes the techs and the callers and the people at the call center to give the minimal amount of support possible to keep the customer happy, to get them off the line, to kind of like band-aid problems instead of fix it. And it actually ends up being very frustrating and very poor customer support. Private prisons are a great example. We incentivizing holding people, and you have abuses and corruption and things like that going on when you're selling prisoners. That gets really screwed up. No Child Left Behind was terrible. The idea is we don't want to leave any child behind. We want to hold everybody up to a minimum standard, but in doing so, we kind of gimped or handicapped the ability for really gifted students to excel. So the gifted students, they're not going to get left behind anyway, but they don't have any amazing place to go and venture off to. It just kind of brings the bottom up to average, and the exceptional kind of squashes them back down to average. The end result of this commentary is that macro level rules and laws are complicated. Even the best made plans of mouse and men can often go awry because we're ingenious, we're lazy, we like to cheat, we like to do things the easiest, best, fast, most efficient way possible, and these are actually good attributes when it comes to long-term survival, but it does make rulemaking very complicated. So my message at the end is, if you're making rules about something, if you're doing something complicated, think twice about what it is you're doing, because you might accidentally pick a rule or a law or something to cause the Cobra effect, and the problem may get worse. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, and enter that Scuf giveaway. Drifter out.